What's up, YouTube? So, no more stacking on that stack. I put a strap on it and just put my last two boards on it. Next door, I'm going to make that mountain like I was telling you about. So, I'm going to make a stack right here. So what I'm currently doing tonight is I wanted to put a couple slabs up there, but I'm gonna pull all this wood out. You're on top of the sawmill right now. It gives me a little more space, and I have plenty of stickers in this trash can. It's filled up. So that's what's the game plan for tonight. As far as my operation, as you know, I work out of storage units. I have a Woodmizer LT40 wide. It's a fantastic machine. I absolutely love it. Give you an idea of my primary species of wood. It's gonna be walnut, and like this slab slash tree slash log was bulldozed in Norman, and it was in a burn pile, and they would just throw diesel in it, and they would just light the burn pile and just go up in smoke. So instead, I love saving trees slash logs from burn piles. So this literally would have been up in smoke in the atmosphere. So all these years of this tree growing and storing the carbon that it does store, that's what trees do. Slabbing them up is the best thing you can do for a tree versus burning it. As far as firewood goes, yeah, the canopy limbs, that's great firewood. If a tree is getting cut down in an urban setting, I like to see all that debris be used into firewood. That's a sustainable situation versus targeting trees in the forest, just cutting them out for firewood. We go through lots of waste, so the landfills and the green dumps are constantly being filled up with debris that could be utilized a little bit differently. And as far as burn piles in Oklahoma, it's just kind of silly that this particular tree gets bulldozed and thrown in burn pits all over America. Time is money, so if you have big equipment, you can just push things over and you light them on fire and then it's gone. So I understand, but I love when landowners reach out to me and say, hey, I have some trees, you want to come take a look at it? I get their information. I go out there to the property, and if there's good logs there, then I want to slice them up. That's for sure. This particular tree, I cut this down in an urban setting. Two older gentlemen were, the ice storm did some major damage to a lot of trees in Oklahoma. The reason that we had so much tree damage in Oklahoma is all of the leaves were still on the trees. Whenever that ice came in, and there was so much weight on the trees, and there were just so many trees that went down, limbs that were, obviously fallen and just broken, and so that storm did some major damage to a lot of the trees. So these two particular walnut trees had some significant damage in them. They were already liability trees before the ice storm. They were actually already on my list, and since the ice storm, did significant damage to them. As you can see, this was the upper branch of the log. The main logs at my house, the slabs, the buells, the big buells are at my house. There's one big buell right behind me, but I have more at my house. So that was not degraded, and you'd have that beautiful walnut in here, but the upper canopy, insect infestation, and it was degraded. So unfortunately in Oklahoma, we have loggers that target our hardwoods, and they come in and just take all the veneer logs, and they will cut every walnut tree down on the property, and line them out for their buyers, do their paint, where their cuts are going to be made at, and obviously the degraded logs are going into the burn pit. So So if the walnut tree is 3 to 5% of our forest, and we have people targeting all of our healthy trees, that just kind of doesn't look like a sustainable situation. They have no efforts with replanting the trees, or the squirrels do that. But as far as collecting, the mature, seeds from the walnut tree, I always collect the walnut seeds. So I got like 5,000 walnuts. They're actually on top of that stack in the very back. Some of the slabs are a little bit longer than those ones on top, so there's a perfect little place back there, and there's a bunch of walnuts there. I have a bunch of walnuts at my house, so planting seedlings is really important for the future. So a lot of times people are clearing this bottom land. There would be a bunch of walnuts in there, and they're planting pecan trees because that's a big thing in Oklahoma. So you're knocking down big old trees like this, and you're planting little, pecan trees, and a lot of the time they put those in burn piles and they burn those also. It's happened dozens of times. I've been there after the fact and before the fact. So great situation, to save the tree versus, burning it. But what I was rambling out about, I guess my competition, cutting every walnut tree on the property and degrading logs, they don't buy them, they burn them. Landowners left with this big old pile of logs that, they burn. And I would like to just see more of a selective harvest going on in Oklahoma, coming in and just cutting out the trees that are starting to get degraded on the upper canopy, and don't just get veneer logs that are 30, 40 years old that are in their prime, that they could get a lot bigger. Let's cut those down in 30 years, not right now. So I would like to see the walnut tree be elevated. If we were at 3 to 5%, walnut tree here, I think that's less. Is it going to be 7 to 10 in the future, or is it going to be 2 to 3 in the future? So I would like it to be 7 to 10 in the future, at least 5% in the future. So the future is very important to me. So just not whacking every walnut tree down. A lot of the trees that I cut down are in urban settings. Like I said, this particular tree was already on the list. Ice storm did some significant damage. I come in and I process the log. I actually removed the tree for free. These gentlemen couldn't afford, removing these trees, and obviously they're valuable trees. I hate to see after the fact of me looking at these things, somebody else comes in and just chops them up. So selective harvest, urban trees. That's kind of my spiel on my competition, I guess. Cutting a tree down, covered by thousands of logs lined up in rows. And Missouri walnut, just plucks them out and sells them to China for $25 a foot. Paying landowners $1.20 to $1.80 a board foot for veneer grade logs is unfortunate. I'll pay more than that just to have them stay. So I have a couple of trees in Newcastle. He would have sold them to somebody else. I said, let me buy those trees, don't sell them. So I bought them, and they're just still standing. I did that to protect them because they don't need to go. Maybe in 15, 20 years we'll cut them out, but they don't need to go. So that's my philosophy. Make properties look better than whenever I come on to the property. So I'm very minimal land impact. I'm not even using skidsters or anything like that on the properties. I will get a skidster one day, and I'll still be conscious of turtles and stuff like that. I'm just gonna come plow a bunch of land in the fall when all the I'm very selective with how I cut trees down. As far as whenever I tell them where they fall, all the canopy log is chopped up and it's going to be into firewood lengths where the landowner can use it for firewood, and then it will be a burn pile. But as far as burning the really good logs, it just doesn't make sense. So saving trees is really important. If if you look at deforestation around the world, I wouldn't say we're gaining trees by any means. No, not at all. So deforestation is a huge issue. But this urban wood that I've been affiliated with the past 8 years, there's a lot of waste. So even developers, they come in and plow trees down and they take them out or they chip them all up. There's a lot of wood there that could be utilized and fulfill a portion of the market. So if we could allocate our resources a little bit better, maybe we could have a better hardwood industry going forward. There are great companies that do, like for instance, the pine and the Douglas fir that you're buying in the stores. That was planted by man. That's a great situation. We're always going to need wood products. So the companies that are taking trees out and actively replanting, I congratulate them. But as far as some companies that have no care whatsoever of the after effects of whenever they leave, cutting a certain amount of trees out of a particular area can change the moisture content and change that environment completely forever. So selective harvest is actually really good. You come in and cut the bad trees out. You allow some of the saplings and some of the smaller trees to get more sunlight, and they actually flourish a little bit better. And then also when my competition comes into a property, many examples, and no need to name them, but they'll fall their trees, and for instance, a tree is going to fall, and let's say it clips an oak tree, and there's a branch 30 feet up that's just dangling. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna not really worry about that. They're gonna pull their stem out. They're gonna leave the canopy in the tree line, and they're gonna pull their stem out and put it in their row. So that's kind of unfortunate. If you do damage to a tree and make another liability branch on a person's property, I think you should take care of that. So select harvest and be very conscious of your environment, and just the stewardship towards the land is kind of my philosophy. So that's my spiel. I really appreciate you guys subscribing. We've had a few new subscribers on, and I don't really edit my videos. I would like to get into that one day. The reason I said I didn't want to do that in the past is because I'm not really familiar with any of that. But yeah, I would like to have cooler videos and stuff. But for the meantime, this is just the realities. My light goes off every 15 minutes. The realities of what I work with. People like to, watch people work and how they do things. And I will say, if you have a goal of getting a sawmill, I think you can achieve that goal. You need to think about where you're going to keep the sawmill, where's the material going to go from the sawmill, how are you going to properly handle that material. As I said maybe in a previous video, I believe, I stand my slabs up initially. I do put them in stacks, a month to a month and a half after they're stood up. The reason I put them in standing up, that entire unit, just both walls are just filled up with walnut side to side. I can get all my lengths because I have an inventory in my mind where all my slabs are at. As far as in this location, I have more wood in my house, but so whenever I make a stack like that, it'd be completely different. Like for instance, if I could snap my fingers, this would be wider right here, and that's that. But I'm capping that off. I'm not going to build any more up. I will say I am going to put a couple pieces of wood. There's a strap on it now. I tried tipping it over. You can't. So I am building a stack next door, and it's going to be forklift accessible. The reason I did this like that is because that's just the wood that I got at that particular time at this location. So that's how it was built. Next mountain next door is going to be like a wider situation. It's going to be taller. It's going to go to the roof. So that's kind of that. But as far as wood goes, there's just these machines that produce a lot of wood, and like I have to decline logs because I don't have the ability to store the material. as far as whitewood logs, like I love sycamore. Cypress is a really cool tree, and then as far as cedar goes, I love cedar. Absolutely love cedar. So cedar's a hot deal right now. At one point in time, and they're still probably doing it, but they push cedar over and burn it in Oklahoma. But I really hoping more trees are allocated to sawmills every year going forward versus the burn piles. That'd be a good thing. And then as far as you guys getting a sawmill, you can get a sawmill. Think about where it's going to go. Think about the material. Are you going to finance this sawmill? Are you going to, pay cash for the sawmill? Those are two important things. What is your need in a sawmill? Do you have equipment? Do you need hydraulics? Are you wanting just to get a hobby mill like an LT15 wide? I will say if I had, a homestead, with house and land and stuff, I probably would have got an LT15 wide with a power feed, assuming I had like a tractor or skid steer on that property, and assuming I wanted to stay stationary and I didn't want to go portable. Because I could be at a way lower price point going that route than getting the fully hydraulic portable mill, LT40 wide super with the diesel engine. It's a great machine. I'm not going to sell this machine. This particular machine, I live across the street. We love our neighbors. We love our neighborhood as far as logistics. It's a perfect situation for me. As far as space goes, getting this type of space anywhere around here, it's not happening for this particular price point. So these 2 units, I see myself like I always see this as an expense going forward. So what I was getting at, I stacked that stack because I wasn't even thinking forklift at that time or skid steer. So that stack next door, it's going to be forklift and skid steer, unstackable. So I'm going to stack it where I can come in with forklift or a skid steer and take those wheels off and get them out of here. So this, I don't even want to sell that. If somebody wants to buy that, they'd have to buy it all. So I have a few buyers every year or so. They get trailer loads, and then obviously I currently have people that get trailer loads every month, but not at that large scale. I have a couple of buyers that that's the amount of wood they buy every time in large slabs, and the large slabs are expensive. So one day I hope to sell that entire stack. But as far as getting you a piece of wood in the middle or one on the bottom, it's not happening. That stack is not for sale. Like those boards aren't for sale unless you buy the entire stack. And as far as number goes, I'm not really trying to sell them, so you'd have to throw me an offer, and $10,000 or $20,000 wouldn't be doing it because I sold 5 slabs June of last year for $23,000, and they were smaller than those. So there's not really a reason to sell them unless you want to pay for them. And you'd have to throw a number out there that would just be like significant, because that's so much work in there. And as far as seeing price points on large walnut, across the country and across the world, it's a really expensive stack. So since I'm keeping this unit, I just kind of conformed it so I can pull my sawmill in here. It's kind of a tight squeeze. I can easily do it. I actually pulled it out where it currently is by hand, just because I needed it, out so I can have some room. We'll get you off the tripod. But yeah, it's the wood. That's my spiel. Once again, thank you for subscribing, watching my videos, see what's going on next door. Truck. So I put that piece of wood there. So once I get past this bump, I can slide it a lot easier versus making a nasty sound. See if we can get this light to turn on. So this unit hasn't changed since yesterday. I sold some pine boards, yesterday or whatever, but all these slabs. So the stack is going to start with them in here. I figured out, I think I'm gonna store the Lucas mill at my house. I use it like not often, as far as the attachments, they're in the back corner. So like I am gonna make stacks back there. I don't know if I said I was going to or wasn't. I'm also gonna make a stack on the trailer I have a bunch of wood coming in. But for the meantime, this can just be paused. So if I need to, I can just put the bunch of wood that's coming in on the trailer and the stuff that's standing up. I don't like to fresh cut right in stacks. It needs to stand up for a second before I put it in stacks so I can accumulate enough so I can have my stack, sufficient in length and selection with, kind of puzzling them stacks together. That stack would be completely different, like I said. 21 minutes. Some beautiful wood back there. Some burley wood, like highly figured wood, scales and all sorts of different stuff. It's dry. So this is where I put the Lucas mill. It'll stay there. It won't go to my house. If I'm thinking that machine, I was also thinking putting the machine in here. So I know I said I was gonna put a stack there, but let's just imagine all this stuff is gone. That machine would fit right in there, and it'd be perfect, because if that machine fit right in there, I could put all the attachments in there. I don't use it much, but all this wood is gonna go, next door. But like I said, I'm not going to be building my particular stack until like the 30th. I have a buyer that's coming to get like a trailer load, so I want these to be, fairly accessible. And after they leave, I'm gonna do the stack, and then I'll be able to, so the thing is I sometimes can't keep up, sometimes they buy all the wood for me and I just can't keep up. So now I've gotten ahead of the situation, and once they come, I'll be able to make another stack, and I'll be able to fill these walls up before they come back. Sometimes they come back, in 30 days. I've had them come back like 2 days after. Because they offload it to other kiln buyers that have kilns and stuff. They can't find walnut, so that's the situation. So I am ahead of the game right now as far as being ahead of my situation. Like, I usually don't have this much wood standing up, and with the potential of, obviously all the wood that I have coming in. So I don't see myself running out of wood like I have so many times. So great situation, thank God. Lots of work to get to this point. So as far as the skidster goes, how can we set you guys up? Let's set you back up at the same time. That skidster would be great, I'm thinking. But at the same time, a forklift would be pretty great too. The forklift would need to be brand new if I got a forklift. I don't want to get a used forklift. As far as skidster goes, I compare it like twice as much as a forklift, because it's like $60,000. So that like I could purchase one right now, but that would exhaust. That wouldn't make me feel comfortable. So getting there, I think the forklift would be really nice, because I'm also thinking if I had a skidster, and obviously the sawmill still portable. I don't have a location to cut logs, so the skidster is just going to be there to help me lift logs and utilize things out there. But as far as the reality of skidster just came here, doesn't like solve all my problems. I will say there's a lot of problems solved with that happening. It's not coming here tomorrow or anything, but I will get one eventually. But I was thinking, I have to take this sometimes an hour and a half away, and that's with my truck. I have to have my truck, car seats are in it and stuff like that. But if I was wanting to use a skidster, there would be also another trip. So like to get this to location, obviously this needs to come back also. So that's 2. Get skidster to location and get it back. That's 4. But the skidster situation, it'd be coming back with wood too, because my trailer would be completely different. I'm getting a gooseneck if I was to get one of those situations. So that increases my logistical situation as far as time driving and getting that happening, because I don't plan on hiring somebody. So that's kind of where that would come in. I'd be able to make these stacks differently where they would be manageable with forks, scooping them out. So that'd be great. I'm able to accomplish, because I'm not clear cutting trees, I'm not cutting tons of trees down, so I'm able to manage with the chains and the trucks and the sawmill. I was thinking if I had a forklift, I think that almost would be a smarter decision right now, because I wouldn't have to worry about taking my forklift out there. My forklift would be able to, just stay here, and it would be able to, I want to have stacks wherever I come in with the forklift and take them off and add to them type deal. As far as manual labor, I'm trying to not eliminate, but I'm trying to there's lots of workloads. Like if somebody wanted us, when they come, it's gonna be 4 or 5 hours worth of work just getting them loaded up. And when they come on the 30th or something like that. So that is, if I had a forklift and I have their stacks already in forklift, pickup situations, then I would just be able to load their trailers and they'd be able to get on their way. And I'm thinking about my back long term. So I do want the skidster and I also want the forklift, but as far as the forklift goes, I think it'd be cool, but it's not necessarily needed. Neither is a skidster. You just got to continue to work and move the slabs around, but it would be really cool to have that forklift or skidster. So, but they're just kind of unachievable goals right now as far as paying for it. There's months where if you think you're gonna get into the wood business and just start making tons and tons of money, unless you have certain capital and certain things lined up and certain operations, you might be mistaking yourself. There's times where I go quite some time without making any money. The Lord always provides, so I don't really worry about money. It just comes in and stuff like that. So those are things to consider. How are you going to make money with this sawmill? Are you going to be cutting for people? I don't really like to cut for people unless it's hey, you want to come save my trees and enjoy the wood, and I just want a couple slabs. That's my favorite type of deal. Saving logs, not encouraging trees to come down, just going and just plugging yourself into great situations where this stuff is a nuisance to them, and utilize it. That's my favorite situation. So cutting for people, and I will say some people want to pay you prices that people are cutting Harbor Freight mills, $80 or $75 or $100 an hour. Even at $100 an hour, it's not really worth it to just cut by the hour for me. To get ready with my sawmill, it takes just as much time, prep work, to get my sawmill ready for 1 hour as it does, to cut all day long. So come in, cut for, they want to base it off $100 an hour, and obviously let's say they also assume a setup fee, whatever that number is, that'd be based off their location, and the logistical matter of setting the sawmill up. Are they on flat land or is it on a hill? There's sometimes I gotta dig holes for these tires to go in, so the sawmill's not riding like this and like this. You can level out the front and back, but as far as sometimes it's not flat ground, and that's a major issue. So, and as far as moving the logs around, are you going to be moving the logs around, or am I going to move the logs around? Are they in your backyard? Can you pull a sawmill back there, and so on and so forth. So, cut for people. It just cut for hundreds of people. I don't like cutting for people. Buy this machine to cut for somebody. I will say, if you want me to cut for you, it'd be $1,200, and that'd be like all day long. That's the only thing that would pretty much kind of get my attention. So that's what it's worth to me. Like if somebody wants me to cut for them, it's all day long. All my blades are included, assuming you got some great, logs and a little bit of metal here and there, that's fine. But if we're going through, metal, and I'm going through 25 blades in a day, we're having problems. Never happened. Most blades I've gone through is like 7 in a day, lots of metal. And even at the $1,200 price point, I would probably try to get a couple of them blades, like 5 would be within that day frame. So like 7, that's kind of, then you pay for a couple blades. So that's the only thing that I would entertain is a $1,200 day rate, and that's like when the sun comes up from like when the sun comes down type deal. Yeah. And 31 minutes, YouTube, and you're still watching. So that's kind of what I would think about cutting for people, just price going forward. But like I said, even at that price point, it's not worth it unless it's at that price point. Anything less, like even $1,000 to come cut for you for all day, it's just not worth my time. So that's the situation. And to give you an example, I used to take a couple logs to other mills, and it would cost me $300-400 to get processed. So, yeah, I think that cutting for people affordably, it really has to be worth it. Yeah. And then as far as just you'll get a sawmill and you'll get more people affiliated with you. You gotta, just know that you have something that might not be in your area, and don't let people take advantage of you and stuff. I'm a little too nice of a person, so I treat people well. I think I treat people really well. So that's the situation. Thanks for subscribing. I'm gonna end this video. God bless you guys. Thumbs up.